All right, Heidegger. I'm sure some of you listening have heard this phrase before, the null ground of a nullity. I mean, it's a mouthful. And honestly, it does sound a bit like something out of like a science fiction novel or something. But when it comes to understanding Heidegger's view of guilt, this phrase is really key, and especially how it all connects to morality. So are you ready to kind of unlock this philosophical puzzle?
Absolutely. Yeah, Heidegger can be a bit of a brain twister sometimes. I mean, a lot of times, actually.
Yeah.
But that's part of what makes reading him so fascinating, right? He really forces us to think differently about these concepts that we might otherwise just take for granted.
Yeah.
So to get to the heart of this null ground of a nullity, we need to start with something that maybe you're already a little bit familiar with, Dasein.
Dasein. Oh man. Yeah, every time I think I'm starting to get it, it just slips away. It's like trying to hold on to, I don't know, a bar of soap in the shower or something.
Right. Well, think of Dasein as kind of like our being in the world, right? It's not just that
Yeah.
we exist like a table or a chair or a rock, but it's that we are engaged in the world and we're also kind of shaped by its possibilities.
Okay.
And a fundamental part of Dasein is this idea of care. And I know that sounds a little simplistic, but it's more than just remembering to like pick up the milk on your way home. It's about how we kind of constantly navigate our lives, always trying to kind of balance, who we are now or given circumstances with who we could become, all those possibilities.
Yes. Okay. So it's like that constant tension between where we are and where we want to be.
Yeah.
All while we're still dealing with all the kind of, everyday stuff that life throws our way.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's actually where this idea of guilt kind of enters the picture. You see, Heidegger doesn't see guilt as just about like doing something wrong, right? Like stealing something or lying or whatever.
Right.
He digs a little deeper and he argues that this guilt that he's talking about is kind of woven into the very fabric of our being, of Dasein. And it's tied to this nullity at the core of our being.
Hold on. So you're saying, like, I'm feeling guilty before I even do anything. I mean, come on, that's a tough break.
Well, it's not quite guilt in the way that we normally think about it, right?
Okay.
Heidegger is talking about, it's like an existential kind of guilt. He calls it being the basis of a nullity. It's really about just recognizing that we are fundamentally finite beings. I mean, we're thrown into this world. We didn't choose to be here.
So it's more about acknowledging this kind of fundamental lack that's at the heart of our existence.
Yeah, precisely. And this lack, this nullity, it's not a bad thing. It's actually the ground of our freedom, of our possibility. It's because we are not these fixed, predetermined beings that we have the capacity to choose, to create, to shape our own existence.
Okay. That's a pretty wild thought. So instead of seeing this nullity as this like void, this emptiness, we should see it as a space for potential.
Exactly. And here's where it gets even more interesting, right? Heidegger suggests that our morality, our sense of right and wrong, it actually springs from this very awareness of our own nullity. Because we are aware of our own, finitude, our own kind of lack of ultimate grounding, that's what makes us able to actually make choices that matter, that shape who we are, who we might become.
So he's saying that acknowledging like our limitations are being the basis of a nullity, this is actually what allows us to act morally in the first place.
Yes. It's as if this awareness of our own kind of nothingness, it wakes us up, right? It wakes us up to the responsibility we have for our actions.
Right.
Heidegger would say that true morality, it doesn't come from just blindly following some external set of rules. It comes from actually confronting this inner nullity and then making choices in light of it.
Wow. Okay, this is really making me rethink my whole understanding of guilt. It's like he's flipping the script. He's saying that guilt in this deeper, this existential sense, it's not something to avoid, but it's actually something that empowers us to live more authentically.
That's a great way to put it. It challenges us to see guilt not as this burden or this punishment, but as like a call to action, a call to become who we really are.
Yeah, I'm already starting to feel, I don't know, a bit lighter, like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Maybe guilt isn't the enemy after all.
Right. It's more like a guide, right? A signpost pointing us toward a more meaningful way of being.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting to see how this whole null ground of a nullity thing might be the foundation for a whole new way of thinking about morality. But how does this translate into, making choices in the real world? Like, what does this actually look like?
That's a great question. And it leads us to another really, really key aspect of Heidegger's thought. And that's this idea of authenticity. But I think we need to save that for part two of our deep dive here. We've covered a lot of ground already. I don't want to overload you with too much Heidegger all at once.
Yeah, agreed. It's definitely a lot to digest. We've just scratched the surface of Heidegger's ideas on guilt here, but it's already clear that his thinking is both challenging and profoundly insightful. So stay tuned for part two, where we'll explore how this whole null ground of a nullity business connects to this idea of living an authentic life.
Yeah, we'll pick up right where we left off, and we'll explore how Heidegger's ideas on guilt and authenticity can actually help us navigate the complexities of our own lives.
Until then, keep pondering that null ground of a nullity. You might be surprised at what you discover.
So, picking up where we left off, let's explore a bit how this understanding of guilt, this being the basis of a nullity thing, how that actually connects to living authentically.
Okay, yeah, I'm all ears, because this whole idea of authenticity, it's kind of a buzzword these days.
All
So
right.
what does it actually mean, though? Like in the context of Heidegger, I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely not just about, following your bliss or being true to yourself, in some kind of like superficial sense, like
Yep.
buying a certain brand of shoes or something.
Right.
Heidegger, he sees authenticity as really a response to this fundamental guilt that we were talking about. It's about owning our thrownness, our finitude, and making choices that are actually aligned with our own most possibilities, even when those possibilities are kind of unsettling.
So it's about embracing those anxieties that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The ones that come from recognizing that we don't have that, ultimate grounding.
Exactly. Yeah. For Heidegger, authentic existence, it's not about seeking comfort or certainty. It's about actually facing those anxieties head on and choosing to act in a way that really affirms our freedom and responsibility.
Yeah. That sounds like a pretty tall order. How do we even begin to live authentically?
Hmm.
When we're constantly bombarded with all these external pressures and expectations.
Well, Heidegger suggests that a key part of authenticity is really understanding our relationship to time. You see, he doesn't see time as like a straight line, from the past to the future, but as more like the horizon of our possibilities.
Time as a horizon of possibilities. That's a pretty mind-bending concept.
Think about it this way, right? The future isn't something that just happens to us.
Yeah.
It's not preordained or anything. It's something that we actively project ourselves into.
Yeah.
Every choice we make, every action we take, it shapes the kind of future that we're moving toward.
So instead of being like these, passive passengers on this train of time, we're actually the conductors. We're choosing the destination, and we're even shaping the journey along the way.
Precisely. And Heidegger, he emphasizes that authentic existence involves anticipating our own finitude, our own death.
Oh, okay.
Now that might sound a little morbid, but he's not suggesting that we dwell on death in a negative way, or that we become obsessed with it.
So it's not about becoming obsessed with death, but about recognizing it as the ultimate horizon of our possibility.
Yeah, exactly. By acknowledging our finitude, we actually gain a much clearer perspective on what really matters. It helps us prioritize to make choices that are actually aligned with our deepest values, rather than just getting caught up in the trivial and fleeting distractions of everyday life.
That makes sense. I mean, if we constantly remind ourselves that our time is limited, we're more likely to to make choices that count.
Exactly. And that's where Heidegger's concept of resoluteness comes in. Resoluteness, it's really the authentic response to this call of conscience, the call to face our guilt and to live in light of it.
We talked about conscience a little bit earlier, but I'm still not quite clear on what Heidegger means by it. It's not just about that little voice in our heads telling us what's right and wrong, is it?
No, it's something much, much deeper than that. You see, Heidegger, he sees conscience as a a call to authenticity, a summons to take responsibility for our existence. It's that unsettling feeling that shakes us out of our complacency and forces us to confront who we really are.
So it's like a wake-up call, a reminder that we're not, living up to our own potential.
Exactly. And resoluteness is about answering that call. It's about making a firm decision to face our guilt, our finitude, and to live in a way that's true to our own most possibilities.
So it's about having the courage to make choices that are aligned with who we want to be, even if those choices are difficult or they go against the grain.
Precisely. Resoluteness is about owning our choices and accepting the responsibility that comes with them. It's about embracing the freedom that arises from acknowledging our nullity, our lack of ultimate grounding.
So it's like Heidegger saying that true freedom, it comes not from having all the answers, but from embracing the unknown.
Yeah.
The uncertainty that's inherent in our existence.
That's a great way to put it. And this embrace of uncertainty, this willingness to face the anxieties that come with being a finite being, this is what allows us to live authentically, to actually create meaning and purpose in a world that often feels, meaningless and absurd.
Yeah, so it's not about trying to eliminate those anxieties, but about learning to live with them, to see them as a necessary part of the human experience.
Exactly. Heidegger suggests that by confronting our anxieties, by acknowledging the nullity at the core of our being, we actually open ourselves up to a richer, a more authentic way of being in the world.
Okay, yeah, this is all starting to click for me now.
Yeah.
So we start with this idea of being the basis of a nullity, acknowledging the lack at the heart of our existence, and then this awareness. This gives rise to guilt, but not in a moralistic sense, but as a call to authenticity. And then authenticity in turn, it requires resoluteness, a commitment to making choices that are aligned with our own most possibilities, even in the face of uncertainty and anxiety.
You got it. It's a challenging path, but Heidegger suggests it's the only path that leads to true freedom and a meaningful life.
Yeah, this is all incredibly thought-provoking, but I have to admit it's a lot to wrap my head around. I'm starting to wonder what all this means for our understanding of morality. Like, if morality is rooted in this existential guilt, how does that change the way we think about right and wrong?
That's a great question, and it leads us to one of the most, I think, radical aspects of Heidegger's thought. But I think that's a conversation we should save for part 3 of our deep dive.
All right. We'll have to save that for next time. But this has already been like such an illuminating journey. I'm starting to see how Heidegger's ideas, they can help us not only understand ourselves better, but also live like more meaningful and fulfilling lives.
Heidegger's philosophy, it definitely challenges us to think differently about who we are and how we relate to the world around us. It's not always easy, but it's definitely worth the effort.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So for those of you listening, take a moment to just kind of reflect on what we've discussed so far. How does Heidegger's concept of guilt resonate with your own experiences? How might this understanding of being the basis of a nullity, how might that inform your own choices and actions?
And remember, this is just the beginning of a fascinating journey. There's so much more to explore in Heidegger's thought, and I'm looking forward to diving deeper into it with you in part 3.
Until then, keep pondering these ideas, and who knows, maybe you'll discover some null grounds of nullity in your own life.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap up our deep dive into Heidegger's concept of guilt here.
Yeah.
We've explored Dasein, we've talked about care, the null ground of a nullity thing. We even touched on the authenticity and resoluteness, but there's one big question that I think is still kind of hanging in the air here, and that's how does it all connect to morality?
Yeah, that's a crucial question because Heidegger's view of morality, it's really unique. He suggests that morality, it's not about just following this set of pre-established rules or conforming to like societal expectations.
Right.
He sees morality as emerging from this confrontation with the nullity at the core of our being.
So instead of looking to like external sources, for moral guidance, we need to to turn inward. We need to grapple with our own, finitude, our being the basis of a nullity.
Exactly. Heidegger, he believes that authentic morality, it arises from our awareness of our own, limitations, our thrownness into this world that we didn't choose, and the
Hmm.
responsibility that comes with that. It's about recognizing that our choices, they actually have weight because they shape who we are and who we might become.
That's a pretty radical departure from the way we usually think about morality. It's like he's saying that our very capacity for moral action, it's rooted in this existential guilt, this awareness of our own kind of nothingness.
Precisely. Yeah, and this leads to a very different understanding of what it means to actually act morally. For Heidegger, it's not about, just blindly following rules or trying to achieve some kind of like moral perfection. It's about making choices in light of our own, finitude, our own kind of unique set of possibilities.
So it's not about striving for some kind of external ideal, but about becoming who we truly are. Even if that means embracing the kind of messy, imperfect reality of our existence.
That's a great way to put it. Heidegger would say that authentic morality, it involves accepting the responsibility that comes with our freedom, even when that freedom, it feels, unsettling or even terrifying.
It's like he's suggesting that true morality, it requires courage. The courage to face our own limitations and to make choices that are true to ourselves, even when those choices are difficult.
Exactly. And this courage, it's closely tied to resoluteness, right? That unwavering commitment to living in accordance with our own most possibilities, even in the face of anxiety and uncertainty.
Wow. This is all so thought-provoking. It's really making me question, like everything I thought I knew about morality. It seems like Heidegger is suggesting that living morally, it isn't about achieving some kind of, moral purity or following some set of predetermined rules. It's about embracing the complexity of our existence and making choices that are authentic to who we are, even when those choices are difficult or unconventional. Yeah.
That's a powerful insight, and it really highlights how Heidegger's philosophy, it can be both, challenging and liberating.
Right.
It challenges us to confront our own, finitude, but it also empowers us to create, meaning and purpose in a world that often feels, meaningless.
Yeah. This has been an incredible deep dive into Heidegger's concept of guilt, and it's clear that his ideas are complex and challenging,
Yeah.
but they're also incredibly rewarding. They offer a whole new way of thinking about ourselves, our place in the world, and the choices that we make.
It's definitely a journey worth taking, and even though we've reached the end of this particular deep dive, I hope it's just the beginning of your exploration of Heidegger's thought.
I couldn't agree more. So as we kind of resurface from this deep dive into Heidegger's world,
Hmm.
just keep these ideas in mind.
Sure.
How can you embrace your own being the basis of a nullity and allow it to inform your choices and actions? How can you cultivate resoluteness and make choices that are truly authentic to who you are?
And remember, Heidegger's philosophy, it's not about finding easy answers. It's about asking the right questions, the questions that can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world.
So keep those questions in mind as you navigate the complexities of life. And who knows, maybe one day we'll take another deep dive together
Yeah.
into this fascinating world of philosophical thought. But until then, happy pondering.